world where everybody's either a scientist, a journalist, or a cop. There are only 3 identities. Pick one.
Or you could be a criminal that just hangs. You could also be a criminal. Or there's one more job, and that's working at Jitters.
I think that if they had not made Barry Allen adopted into a black family, I don't think it would have been the same cool show. I think that was part of what made it interesting.
Part of the reason I think that Barry is more comfortable around people of color is because he was raised in a black household. He already had an established relationship with Joe and Iris.
Yes.
when he was before he went to go live there. And then he went to go live there, and I'm like, yeah, like you probably had to learn all the stuff.
You know, in the episode where he's hanging out with Black Lightning and he's like, Black Lightning, take away my power. I'm freaking out because I'm getting gaslit by the Reverse Flash. Sucker. Anyway, in that episode, he thinks that Joe is dead, and he's like talking about jazz music and like culture. And I was like, wow, you really grew up with a black man. I like that they wrote this.
Yes, I 100% agree. It's part of what makes Barry. So Barry, it has always been the heart of the Justice League. The Flash is the heart of the Justice League.
Yes.
But
yeah,
Joe is the heart of Barry.
Woo, well done. Yes.
So when it all comes down to it, thank you, Joe.
I feel like the Flash was doing some racial reconciliation propaganda, and the like. I think that had they just like made the Allen family or the West family white people, I think we would have gotten the same story beats, but they would not have been as satisfying. They would have felt a lot cheaper and more awful. And in some ways, yeah.
Yeah, it would have felt like real boring, basic, same old. There's no spice, no variety, no interest.
Yeah, like we've seen, the white man is made whole because of the weakness of the white woman. The white man's position doesn't exist unless the white woman is there subordinate and requiring the white man to do white man performances. In this story, it's, again, I think it feels more interesting and juicy because they are suggesting that a black woman is central to the universe being what it's supposed to be. And I kind of like that, even though it also is just like, yeah, the future is mixed children. And I'm like, oh, wait, no, not, capitalist TV show programming. Not totally that, but almost. Even though the show was black AF. And even though the show was like, look at these female characters doing stuff. Look at us. Like, we're not typical sexism. We're post-racial. Haha. We were made during the Obama years. Even when they made those creative choices to sell to me their target audience demographic, they were always centering whiteness. Yes. The Arrowverse is about a white universe where white men are the most central important thing to the, not only the universe, but the universes.
All creation is what you're thinking of.
Ollie was the beginning and the end of the Arrowverse. He starts off, he kicks the whole thing off, and then he somehow becomes like the Spectre.
Yeah, he is God's vengeance.
He becomes
the spirit of vengeance.
As like a human's vengeance, and then he becomes the spirit of vengeance that's really like there as like a central universal figure who could do godlike power things.
But generally doesn't.
If Barry is messed up, there is no universe. Barry is the most important Flash. Without Barry being the Flash, no one gets to be the Flash.
It's because Barry is the positive speed avatar. That's why. It's because the Speed Force, the Speed Force, the Speed Force that looks like his mommy.
Yeah, totally.
That is also his kid.
Yep.
That was a weird season. The Speed Force chose Barry. Barry didn't just
Right.
magically get his powers. The Speed Force chose him and gave him those powers. That was that lightning that went. So there's the big boom, and it triggered the lightning. The lightning goes through the window. That's the Speed Force going, I choose you, Pikachu, or Barry Allen. And then psh. And that's because
So
it's
that's
exactly what happened to Eddie. It's exactly what happened to Eddie.
that's even more disturbing then. So in the universe of this story, you can get hit and have your meta powers happen. But Barry got chosen by special speed gods to have
Yeah.
his power because he was chosen by God. He was chosen
No.
by the God.
No,
Well,
he
speed
was
God, like
not a
by
god.
Speed Force.
By the Force.
Well,
It's a
Speed
natural force.
which is I'm kind of trying to like go to a hyperbolic point
He's a
in terms
chosen
of like
one.
the storytelling. He's a chosen one, and in many ways, what are stories always doing? They're making the good guy Jesus. Spider-Man is Jesus. Your good guy is your good guy is the center of the universe who must sacrifice himself so that everybody can live, but also everybody has to worship him and make sure he gets to live forever.
And also
I'm
save
saying
his
stuff
wife.
off the top
Save
of
his
my dome.
wife, guys. Save his wife. That's his
Let me-
wife.
So here's a question I have for you. In all of the Flash, did we have any characters that struggled with drugs that weren't either evil or killed by the plot? Because like for some folks, people think of drug addiction as a kind of disability, and for the purposes of this conversation, I'm
It
coding
is.
Hunter Solomon in that lane as well. And I'm thinking about blood work too, actually, because like, what's blood work story? Blood work story is
He
that
doesn't want to die.
well, he's got a degenerative disease. He doesn't want to be disabled and die slowly by it. So he
Yeah.
makes a drug to cure himself. But the drug, he wants it makes him hungry for more and more people and power and connection. And it's disgusting and terrible. And it's the same thing with Hunter Zolomon. Once he starts taking that, whatever it was, speed drug, he needs more and more of it. And that's also part of like it's interesting because like you were saying that Ramsey Rosso was like a good guy and we get to see him be a good person before he becomes evil.
We get to watch him make that choice, because that's what it comes down to, is that Ramsey could have made the choice to not do the things that he did. And they showed how multiple times he was given opportunities to stop it and not go to jail.
Help.
Yeah. And not
Yeah.
go to jail. Like everything was going to be like good and fine. And yet and he consistently and constantly made the bad choice because he was so smart. He's so smart. He thinks that he was right.
Here's the thing though. It's not because of character logics. It's because the show needs us to think certain things about people who take drugs because the show is propaganda. So like ultimately we need to walk away from watching the show thinking people who are disabled did it to themselves. They're bad because either they were born bad or they did it to themselves. And once they're bad, they're kind of bad forever unless they decide to become a cop or collaborate with the cops. That's the only way to become a good guy. You got to cooperate with the police. Not that it was the Flash, but Diggle was on drugs for a little while he was replacing the Arrow. Oh, interesting. Okay, I like that. Again, though, I'm assuming that was later in the run, but that's interesting. I'm now so now I'm like trying to think about the rest of the Arrowverse and like what are their opinions about people who do drugs and how do they handle those stories?
Oh, it's a lot different because of the darkness and the edginess and the cityness of it all, the underbelly, like things like drugs or partying too hard is a thing that happens on Arrow, but the Flash is about family.
Oh my gosh,
those type of shenanigans, like they might go to the club and dance, but they are there to dance and have 1 to 3 drinks max.
I really liked that Cecile's character struggled with mental health.
Yes.
And that did not make them I feel like this is what the show is doing. because the show has actually had a number of characters that had mental health problems. And that just like, and to a certain extent, in these superhero universes, anyone with mental health problems is a criminal. Because why else would you do crimes? It's because you're crazy in the head. You're either super greedy, which is why this is capitalist propaganda. Because you know what happens with people who don't have enough? They're just greedy and they do crimes. That's the only reason people do crimes. Because they're greedy, money hungry, bad people, or they're crazy. It's a messed up story. So I liked that in later seasons, they're like, hey, let's make this prosecutor character be a defender. Let's make her change her mind. We'll give her like a light bulb moment because she has the experience. But of course, no one learns their lesson unless they become part of the marginalized class in The Flash or any of these stories. That's
But
kind
with
of messed up.
Cecile, it's not just that she became part of the marginalized class. She became super duper. Her power was empathy. I mean, you know, she got her powers from Joe, from her and Joe's baby Jenna, because she didn't have superpowers until she got pregnant. Her pregnancy triggered her metahuman powers.
I thought that, like, yeah, I don't totally understand how people get their powers in this show. That's okay. It's all right. I'm going to move on.
All sorts of ways.
But you were saying in our pregame conversation, you were saying that everybody, or like most people, have latent metahuman capabilities, probably, and you just have to get hit by some stray dark matter to activate it.
Yeah.
And then whatever you're doing at the time when you get activated, or whatever your personal trauma is when you get activated, that's what your powers are going to be. So it's really smart to do a lot of therapy just in case you get hit by dark matter, because you do not want your superpowers to be tied to your personal trauma. That's complicated. The Flash is always performing, I feel guilty for not saving my family. I feel guilty for not doing enough. Not, I feel guilty for locking all these metahumans up. I feel guilty for failing metahumans in my first few years, and a lot of them ending up dead because I made flawed choices because I live in an ableist community.
There were episodes where he for like 5 to 15 seconds realized that his bad actions had impact.
The dangerous story these superhero shows tell us is you need somebody who's willing to be gray, who's willing to cross the lines. You can't win. You can't have a good world unless you have somebody who will skulk around at night and break people's legs.
Can I tell you something? On
behalf of the law.
Yeah, you have to break the law to enforce the law. If you have to break the law to enforce the law, then the law isn't worth it. Then the law isn't worth it. And that is how our police system currently runs. And that is why I am an abolitionist.
And that is watching superheroes through an abolitionist lens. It makes it a complicated watch. If everyone enjoyed us talking about The Flash for 2 hours, you can visit our YouTube channel where we will republish this, and you can listen to us also talk about The Flash for 2 hours once again. You can also donate to Ko-fi at callingupjustice.com or Calling Up Justice, Ko-fi/Calling Up Justice.